It began like any normal day, the kind you don't think twice about. I came home from work, expecting nothing unusual. My wife was in the kitchen, preparing dinner as she always did. We exchanged smiles, and I thought to myself how fortunate I was. For years, I believed we had the perfect marriage. We weren't just a couple. We were best friends, partners who shared everything. At least, that's what I thought. That evening, as we sat down to dinner, she was quieter than usual. I sensed something was wrong. Her usual energy, her warmth, wasn't there. I asked if she was all right, but she brushed it off with a forced smile. "Just tired," she said. I let it go, thinking if something was truly bothering her, she'd tell me. But deep down, I felt uneasy. After dinner, as we sat on the couch, she suddenly turned to me and said, "We need to talk." Now, if you've ever been in a long-term relationship, you know those words rarely signal anything good. My heart dropped, but I kept my composure. I nodded and asked, "What's on your mind?" She paused for a moment, looking down at her hands, then said, "I've been doing a lot of thinking about us, about our marriage. I think we need to make some changes." My stomach twisted. "What kind of changes?" I asked, trying to sound steady. What she said next hit me like a ton of bricks. "I think we should have an open marriage," she said, as casually as if she were suggesting a new restaurant. My mind went blank. I stared at her, waiting for her to laugh and say it was a joke, but her face was serious, dead serious. "An open marriage?" I repeated, hoping I misunderstood. "Yes," she said, her tone calm and deliberate. "I feel like we've been stuck in a routine, and I think exploring other relationships could help us grow. It's not about love. It's about freedom and self-discovery." Freedom, self-discovery. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was the woman I had promised to spend my life with, the person I trusted more than anyone in the world. And now, she was asking me to share her with strangers. I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or scream. I asked if there was someone else, and she looked me straight in the eye and said, "No, this isn't about anyone else. It's about us." But something in her voice didn't sit right. I couldn't shake the feeling she wasn't telling me the whole truth. The following days were some of the most confusing and painful of my life. I couldn't stop replaying that conversation in my mind, questioning everything. Had I missed the signs? Was our marriage really in trouble? Or was this some midlife crisis she was going through? I decided to confide in someone I trusted, my mom. Surely, she would understand my pain and offer guidance. But when I told her, she shocked me. Instead of the outrage and support I expected, she said, "Well, maybe she has a point. Relationships evolve. And maybe this is something you should consider." I couldn't believe my ears. My own mother, the person who had always been my rock, was suggesting I go along with this madness. Desperate for some clarity, I reached out to my wife's mom. Surely, she would talk some sense into her daughter. But again, I was wrong. "Marriage is about compromise," she said. "Maybe this is her way of finding happiness, and you should support her." I felt utterly isolated, as though I was the only one fighting for our marriage. Yet even then, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the situation. Something didn't quite add up. My wife's sudden interest in an open marriage, her odd behavior, her secrecy, it didn't seem like a coincidence. One night, as she slept, I decided to trust my instincts. I checked her phone, something I had never done before. What I found confirmed my worst fears. There were messages, dozens of them, flirty, intimate texts to a man I didn't know. They talked about meeting up, about the amazing night they'd spent together, and how much they missed each other. She wasn't asking for permission to explore. She was already doing it. The next morning, I confronted her. I showed her the messages and demanded an explanation. At first, she tried to deny it. But when she realized there was no escaping the truth, she confessed. "Yes, I've been seeing someone," she said, her voice calm and unrepentant. "But that's why I suggested the open marriage. I didn't want to keep sneaking around. Her lack of remorse was astonishing. She wasn't sorry for what she had done. She was only sorry she had been caught. I asked her if she even cared about our marriage, about me. Her response, "I care, but I can't ignore who I am. I need to be free to explore." In that moment, something inside me shattered. I realized this wasn't just about infidelity. It was about her complete disregard for me, for our vows, and for everything we had built together. I told her I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't live like that, sharing her with someone else. She called me selfish and said I was stuck in the past, but I didn't care. I knew I deserved better. The decision to leave wasn't easy. Divorce is never simple, especially when you've invested so much of your life into someone. But staying would have meant losing myself, and I wasn't willing to do that. In the months that followed, I went through every emotion imaginable: anger, sadness, guilt, even moments of doubt. But over time, I began to heal. I started therapy, reconnected with friends, and focused on rediscovering who I was outside of a marriage. Today, I'm stronger than ever. I've learned to set boundaries, demand the respect I deserve, and never settle for less than I'm worth. Looking back, I'm grateful for the experience. Not because it was easy, but because it taught me priceless lessons about love, trust, and self-worth. If there's one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this: you are worthy of love and respect. Never let anyone make you feel otherwise. And if someone tries to dim your light, don't be afraid to walk away. Sometimes letting go is the bravest and best thing you can do.